Hi everyone. You may have seen the original video on this E21 where we found it sitting 30 years, bought it from someone local and put a lot of time and effort into it, but we revived it, brought it back from the dead and got it running, driving, starting, and stopping a little bit. The brakes weren't great. This video here is going to be a follow-up video on just some of the things that I've done to it after I purchased it and got it running, just to make it better, to make it easier to daily drive and to bring it back to its former glory. So I hope you enjoy watching this, and definitely stay tuned for future videos on the incremental improvements that I make to this car. So here is the parts car that has sacrificed itself so that my car, Betty the black E21, can live. So when I got this, it was mostly complete, but unfortunately it has succumbed to the rust. This is, just completely gone. Yes, this probably could be saved, but it wasn't gonna find the person who would save it. It had been listed for sale for quite a long time, sat in a field. So I drove up to Philly and purchased this a few weeks ago, and it was a complete car. It didn't drive, it didn't run, but I rolled it in here and started taking it apart. So front clip will be going to someone a little bit south of here to save their car. Front bumpers, hopefully sold to somebody that can use them. The engine is going to go into a E21 with some 2002 parts on it to make a Weber carbureted converted E21. So that'll be cool to follow. Little parts have gone all around the world from this car. Blower motor to Arizona. Turn signals out west. People want the wheels shipped all over. And then of course, sunroof has gone to my car. Someone reached out from Denmark, wanted these trim pieces. These are in good condition. I put one on my car. Gauge cluster went out to California. There's a lot of these cars out there and people need parts for them. Unfortunately, the dash is cracked on this, just like E30s. These are highly sought after when they're not cracked. This was the beginning of soft touch materials, especially dashboards, starting with E21 actually, and these tend to crack. So if you do have a car like this that has an uncracked dash, be sure to moisturize it with some kind of leather or vinyl conditioner often. Door panels, those will go to save another car. Someone was restoring theirs and needed seat belts. Those are going to that guy. The seats were trashed in this car. The transmission was a highly sought after 5-speed. This car actually came with 2 of them. So you'll see a picture here of the transmission sitting in the trunk. So that one was sourced from a salvage yard. That's going to go into a 2002. So the 2002s did not come with a 5-speed, but the 5-speed from the E21 swaps right in with just a few parts. So that's highly sought after. I have another one over here, and this is what took the car off the road. So you can see that it looks like the flex disc on the drive shaft failed, and I'm assuming when it failed, the drive shaft came off and then started swinging around, hit the selector rod here and bent it, knocked a ear off of the output shaft here, damaged the case where the shift plate sits. So that's a shame, but hopefully this can go save somebody else's 5-speed car because it has good internals, just not this part here. And here are my 323 rear trailing arms with the disc brake rear. So it's similar to an E30. It's different caliper and bracket. Some people do those swaps, but this is actually from a Euro model 323i E21. So that'll be a pretty cool swap. And a little bonus footage here. My M50 out of my E36 race car. Dropped a valve at Virginia International Raceway, and yeah, that's where we're at. So you can see it sitting over there. The new one out of an E34, 525, I'm rebuilding that, and that's going to go in there. Mirrors, like I said, those are on my car. Lots of little parts going all over to save other E21s. It's always tough parting out a car, but Sometimes one car must die so that others may live. On these cars and E30s, there's a gearbox, what's right here, and there's two opposing cables. And I'm sure the engineers at BMW had great intentions, and I'm sure it's a design that's used elsewhere, but the way that the sunroof opens, it's actually, the cable is put under compression. So I'm sure, you know, everybody knows the engineering feats of a rope or a cable or a chain. Tremendous strength under tension, no strength under compression. So think about, it's a cable and you're trying to push the cable back and trying to keep it straight, and that's what pushes the sunroof back into the roof. Well, that cable strips, that's the first problem. And then there's also these two guide rails that these sandwich between, and if those rails get loose or bent or mangled, they'll spread apart, and then the cable, instead of pushing straight back, will bend and come out of the rail. So that's what had happened with this sunroof, is the cable had stripped because the previous owner had let the roof get full of leaves, and then I guess they tried to crank the roof back and it got jammed, and then they kept cranking on the handle. It stripped the cable and then broke the guides here. So I cannibalized that other car and took all those pieces and put them in here. Unfortunately, the roof was damaged a little bit more than I had hoped. So currently the roof can go back and forward, but the actual rails that sandwich the cables are a little loose, so it'll pop out and then the things get out of sync and it's a hassle. So I just pop the roof up and close it. I don't try to roll it back into the roof. So a couple other things. We're looking inside the car. I still have the same vinyl door cards. I did shampoo them. There was 30 years of grit and grime and mold and all kinds of nasty stuff on them, so they don't smell bad, and I'm not afraid to touch them. But they still don't look great. So the guy that I bought the parts car from, he actually had a early model tan car that I grabbed these seats from, and then I also purchased the door cards, the vinyl door cards, separately. So I'm waiting to get those in the mail. So originally this car had cloth interior, so cloth door cards, cloth seats. I replaced these seats with some 2002 seats that I modified to have a seatbelt buckle receptacle on, and that worked fine. But the 02 seats are a really old school stylish seat that has a coil spring. Basically there's two of them, and it's not a very comfortable ride, and it was a bit anachronistic for this car. So I got this set of OE E21 seats, and those are in there, and the rear seats are actually out of a Bauer E21. So those were the coach built E21s that were convertibles, kind of like a half target top. And yeah, kind of a weird car to pull those out of it, but it's interesting nonetheless. I've upgraded the floor mats. Classic BMWs, the go-to floor mat is a cocoa mat. These are not meant for this car, but I will be getting the period correct ones eventually. Accelerator pedal was broken. I replaced that. I've conditioned all of the soft touch materials in here, conditioned the seats. I've replaced the shift knob, shift boot. I've replaced one side of the center console. I took the radio apart, cleaned it up, got it working, added a Bluetooth adapter. Got all the junk out of the AC vents, the heat vents. So a cool thing about E21s is the heater has one set of vents. So the ones on the sides, the ones on the floor, blow the heat. But then if you turn the fresh air flap open, then fresh air comes out of the central vents. And if your car is optioned with air conditioning like this car is, the air conditioning comes out of those fresh air vents, which is pretty cool but confusing when you get one of these and you're used to a more modern system. So I've let all the leaves get blown out of there, and it took probably, I would honestly say, about 5 hours of driving with the vents on, constantly flipping them back and forth between all the settings to get all of the leaves and gunk and stuff like that out of there. I've added a sport wheel. So the E21 had a package called the Sport Package, and people will refer to these cars as the 320is, although this is before BMW was adding badging and calling the sport models ISs. So it was actually still a 320i, but part of that package actually debadged the car, so it wouldn't have a 320i badge on it. People call it a 320is, but it was still a 320i, and it came with a sport package, which included these BBS wheels. So these are the not original to this car, but original to an E21, 13 by 5.5 BBS wheel. There was also a 13 by 6. I wish I could have found those, but I haven't found those yet. These have been painted white. I do not believe that is original. You would also get a 3-spoke steering wheel with a thicker grip. So mine was in good condition, but the foam and vinyl was separating from the core of the steering wheel, and it made it hard to turn, especially because this doesn't have power steering. So the 3-spoke sport wheel with a thicker grip, that has improved drivability, added the BBSs. The sport package also came with Recaro seats. So I have a line on those right now. Unfortunately, they never made tan vinyl Recaros. So hopefully I can get a set and recover them to match the interior. That would be very nice. The sport package also came with a limited slip diff, which is basically unobtainium these days. It would have been a 3.9 to 1 ratio, which is what came standard in all of the late model E21s, but this would have had a limited slip clutch pack in it. So that's hard to find, but I'm on the lookout. They also came with a different air dam in the front, which I don't think I'll be able to find, but they make BBS replicas and also motorsport replica bumpers, so I may try to do that. And yeah, the ISs or sport packages came in white, black, and red. And then I believe 1993 had an additional color. I can't remember what it is. I believe it was blue. Anyway, that's the ultimate plan for this car, is to make it as it could have been, properly optioned from the factory in 1983, including all the sport package items. So additional things that I fixed: new badges, roundel, however you want to say it. Replaced a headlight. I also rebuilt the fog lights. So I have the parts car in the garage right now, and between this car and the parts car, I was able to reconstruct 2 complete fog lights. This one works, this one does not. Right now they have period Bosch fog lights. You can't find those anymore. I'm on the lookout for them. So that one is cracked over there, and for the moment I'm actually more willing to keep the cracked original Bosch light on there, as opposed to fixing it with something that is not period correct but works, because I'm not going to drive this much in the fog anyway. So some other things that we have replaced and worked on. Back here I have reconditioned all of the plastic. I still have a ways to go, but I've been using Mother's Back to Black, and it's definitely bringing a lot of life back to these plastics. Taking the carpet out of here and shampooed it, pressure washed it over and over and over again. It still smells kind of bad, but definitely a lot better than it did before. I have added back the factory jack and tire iron. I pulled the tire iron from the parts car with the clamp that's appropriate, and I've also completed the toolkit. So this is kind of a big thing when it comes down to, you know, every last detail for a car. When it's a classic BMW, having the complete toolkit is crucial. So I'm actually missing this one smaller wrench, but I'll find that on eBay or something. And I'm actually not sure what this is. I haven't found any information on what this is. Perhaps it was a Euro only option, such as a warning triangle or something like that. So if anybody knows, please let me know in the comments what that is. And as I go, I'll probably replace these with cleaner tools, or I'll work on getting the rust off myself. Let me screw this back in. So I'll pop the hood and we'll talk about some of the stuff that I've had to fix under here. You may have seen my other video. I replaced the speakers in this car. I have replaced brake lines in the rear, blown air through the whole system, so now all 4 brakes work. I actually have a set of trailing arms from a European model 323 in the garage, and that will replace the factory drum brakes in the rear with factory disc brakes. So very excited about that. Other things I've done in here would be adjusted timing to get it running better. I need to do a valve adjustment on it soon. So these older BMWs, M10, M20, M30, they had physical lifters. So they weren't lifters that were cushioned with oil inside of them that were self-adjusting. These, you need to periodically adjust the gap between the top of the lifter and the cam, or the rocker arm, and that will ensure that you don't have slop and make sure that the valve opens up all the way, and also that you don't have a hammering action on the top of the valve and putting a lot of tension on the rocker arm, because you'll snap rocker arms. Not as big of a problem here on the M10 as the M20. Those are infamous for breaking rockers. So a couple of other things that I've found in here. This sensor, which I've actually yet to identify, was missing on this car, and someone had filled this vacuum line with epoxy. So I have another intake that I'm going to swap over onto this, replace some fuses and relays, continue to clean injectors and replace vacuum hoses as I go. I have cleaned the cold start injector. That's a 5th injector on this car that will enrich in the fuel mix on cold starts, because an engine should be ran slightly rich under cold conditions, and these cars don't have the fancy sensors to be able to electronically control that. So it's just like a thermo time switch that, as the car warms, this bimetallic spring will pull away from a contact and stop injecting. Will lower fuel pressure to the will actually raise fuel pressure to the system fuel pressure, and it will lean out the mix. And in conjunction with that, when for the first few seconds of cranking the car, this injector will fire. So there's a couple different ways to enrich it. This will do extra fuel on cranking, and then the warm-up regulator will have a thermo time switch that also enriches the fuel mix. Another item that we've done isn't very necessary to talk about, but I did do a bumper tuck. So the US model E21s, the same as a lot of classic BMWs, came with these 5-mile-an-hour like pedestrian impact bumpers, which stuck out very, very far. And if you compare them to a European model, you'll see that on the front end, a European model, the chrome bumper is right here, and it follows the body line very well. It keeps the shark nose look, but in the US, these bumpers actually stick out to about here, maybe even a little bit further. And you can take the bumper shocks that are in here, and you can drill a hole in them and then push these bumpers in. Gives a little bit better look, at least until I can decide to do Euro bumpers on this. Some other small things that I've done to this car, replacing things like this mirror was cracked when I bought it, so I got this from the parts car. I reconditioned the plastic to make it look better. This mirror was also cracked, and it's kind of like a funhouse mirror. It showed a bunch of different reflections, so pulled that from the parts car, cleaned it up, restored it. Some trim pieces that were missing, so the kick panel there, the bottom piece of the steering column, I replaced that. The straps in here that limit how far the glove box can come down, these are pieces that wear out and they're $15 a piece, but things like that really make the car a lot more livable, especially when your glove box doesn't fly open and break. I have the original Haynes manual for this car. I do not recommend this. It is not very helpful. A lot of stuff is pretty simple that it tells you. I suppose some stuff would be useful, but a lot of the pictures don't actually reflect what the actual part looks like in the car. especially, you know, we're looking at US models. We never got a carbureted model, for example. So there's a lot of stuff in here for things that we never had in the United States. I did get the original owner's manual, and there's actually a lot of fun things in here. There's a section in here, the 10 commandments of economical, or 10 commandments of energy conscious driving. Lots of fun little things in here telling you to shift early, adopt a moderate driving style and avoid extremes. Do not accelerate when you can see you'll have to brake in the next few moments. Things like that. So this is a bit of cool history to look at. A lot of the fun in having these cars is just looking at the car, how it was. So, you know, ultimate plans for this car are not to modify it and do all kinds of crazy stuff. My dreams are leave it stock, maybe go OEM plus. So whatever was available at the time from BMW or official BMW aftermarket suppliers like BBS or Bauer or I believe it's Hartke, I don't know how to pronounce that, or Zender. All of those are period correct aftermarket options. So things like that I think I'm open to doing, but for the most part I just want to leave it stock. You may have noticed in the original video there was some rust here on the fuel door, so I pulled this from a parts car. Nice condition black one. Definitely looks a lot better. And I think one important thing to mention here is the headliner. So when you're looking at an old BMW, I would say starting with the E21 and older, the chances are if the sunroof is not in great condition, it will never be in great condition unless you spend a lot of money or a lot of time and effort to get it right. So if you look at a car like an E30 or newer, the sunroof, or the headliner, excuse me, can come out as one big piece, and you don't need to pull glass or anything like that to fix it. On these cars, unfortunately, if I wanted to replace this headliner, I would need to pull the front glass, the rear glass, and then I would need to peel this away. It's glued to the sheet metal, pinched in between this seal, the sunroof seals, windshield seals, or rear window seals, everything like that. Pull all those pieces off, scrape off the glued on vinyl, then custom make my own piece, put it on here, stretch it over the bows that are in the roof, take all the glass out of the car, glue it, stretch it, continue to check it, leave it for multiple days, then put all the glass back in, hope that I did it correctly. That is on the long-term goals, but for now, I think this is okay. But it is a shame that I do have those pieces that are taped there. And you can see the sunroof does work slightly. I don't dare open it more than that. Another common E21 problem, and also O2 problem, is if you listen to this, these start to degrade. The sun visors degrade on the inside, and they start to get crunchy, and then they completely lose their shape. So I'm very careful with these. I pulled these out of the parts car. They're in a little bit better condition than mine were. So now we're going to look at an E39 5 Series for Tyler. We're going to take the E21. Nice.